So, the fallacy of using Asian reparations? Coming right on. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense, Logic, and Reason. And as always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So we know that black people are always complaining about reparations, that blacks in America should get reparations, and of course for slavery. And their argument is that white people got generations of free labor, which actually isn't the case, because white people actually paid for the slaves. And slaves were not cheap. There's a reason why less than 10% of the population owned slaves. And not only that, you had to feed them, you had to clothe them, you had to house them. So in a lot of ways, slaves were a liability. But the argument that I've always used against slavery is that, against reparations is repair you to what? The root word of reparations is to repair, to restore. Where repair black people to what? Restore you to what? I mean, if you came here as slaves, the only thing that you could possibly be restored to is slave. I mean, it's not like black people migrated here, the slaves migrated here, and then they amassed this land and nice sums of wealth, and white folks decided to enslave them. No, you were bought from Africa as slaves, and you, speaking of you, for all those blacks out there who believe it's always saying we, you was resold as slaves in America. So the only thing that you can possibly be restored to is slavery. Anyway, Asian reparations is another argument that so many blacks use as the case why blacks should receive reparations. They say that, well, Asian people receive reparations, and those people who say that clearly have never looked up what these Asian reparations were or know anything about it. All they pretty much know is, well, Asian people got reparations. Anyway, to give a backstory on these Asian reparations, quote unquote, back during World War II, we were at war with Japan. Now, we had a sizable Japanese American community, most of them first generation, and fearing that they would be more loyal to the emperor than America and possibly sabotage the war effort, these Japanese Americans were put into internment camps, something that would be considered an absolute no-no today. Leftists would lose their ever-loving mind, and you know what, I agree. Even conservatives today would say that something like that would be wrong, but it was a different time. Anyway, these Japanese Americans were put into these internment camps. And it was estimated that roughly about 120,000 or so Japanese Americans actually spent time in these internment camps. Well, when it was all said and done, they lost a lot of wealth, a lot of land as a result of this, the reshuffling because of the war. And once the war ended and everybody started acclimating back into society, they could do nothing about it. All they could do was just, roll up their sleeves, pick up the pieces of where they were, and just go from there. Now, fast forward to 1989, the federal government decided to make good on these people for what was taken from them and everything that they lost being in these internment camps. Now, it was estimated that roughly about half the people were still alive of the Japanese Americans who spent time in those internment camps. Now, who got the reparations? Well, basically, reparations were paid to those people who actually spent time in internment camps and were still alive. Nothing whatsoever went to the estate of those people who had passed on, not even to their children. Again, we're talking children or grandchildren who obviously were still alive and still alive today. Nothing went to them, and we're talking first generation. And they got nothing. Only people who got reparations were those 60,000 Japanese Americans who had personally spent time in these internment camps and were still alive. Now, if black people using Asian reparations, which are actually Japanese reparations, as a case for why black people should get reparations, well, now you have an epic fail because, well, As I said, no money went to the estate of those Japanese Americans who had died and passed on. And again, we're talking about their children. We're talking about people who actually knew them, children and grandchildren who actually knew these people. They didn't get anything. So then why would black people get reparations because of slavery from several generations ago, 5 to 6 generations ago, for people that they didn't even know? And then on top of that, how many black people can actually give a lineage that they were actually enslaved, and they basically have a lineage from blacks who were enslaved and not a lineage from black people who migrated to this country after slavery ended? But the fact that anyone tried to use Japanese reparations as reason why black people should get reparations, again, it's an epic fail, because no black person alive today were ever personally a slave. So if Japanese reparations were only paid out to people who personally spent time in those internment camps and were still alive, well, there's no black person who actually was a slave in America and is still alive. So reparations, again, because of if you're going to use the Japanese reparations as evidence why blacks should get reparations, again, it's an epic fail, because no black person alive today was ever a slave. End of story. Now that's just using Asian reparations or Japanese reparations on top of all the other arguments that they use. But if you're going to go based upon the Japanese reparations, then no black person alive today gets anything, because you were never enslaved. Again, if you ever hear any of these black people try to use Japanese reparations as reason for why black people should get reparations, then well, now you know, and knowing it's half the battle. And as always, y'all, until next time.